So, you want to build a car like this one? Well, it's your... What? What the fuck?
Get in, Jack. There's a new tutorial. So to go ahead and start off, the biggest thing about building cars in Gmod, or anything, in this case, planes, tanks, literally anything, always you want to be building north and south regardless of what map you're on. These directions help you set up your ball sockets, as that's what the general axes of the tools within the game are set up on. So to check north and south, you can get your paint tool out, go to smile, go ahead and spray it down. The smile is always going to be facing north and south. It doesn't really matter which way the front of your thing is facing, as long as it's facing this direction. Doesn't really matter as long as it's angled this way. So to go ahead and start, I'm going to go to S props, plates thin, and yeah, we'll scroll down right here to 66. We'll do 66 by 144 right here. That's a pretty good size for today. Hold C, right click, disable collisions. Now what you're going to do is go to transportation. We're going to go to our wheels. We'll do size 25. This is the basic size wheel you use for most correct scale building, real scale building in Gmod. And typically it's a good habit to use this wheel for most of your chassis for cars or anything like that. Now what we're going to go ahead and do, now that we have things set up, to move this wheel, we're going to do a quicker method than most people show. What we can do is we'll clip it kind of inside our base plate here. Probably about 2 grid spaces back. It doesn't have to be crazy accurate. This is just a simple chassis. And obviously, we'll have it sticking down a bit so we have some ride height. Now, once we have that set up, we'll go to precision alignment, hit pause plus hit normal, and you should have all these boxes ticked. Now, you'll click here. As long as it's around the middle, you want this plane to be showing up in the direct middle of the car. It doesn't matter if it's down at the end or the direct middle or the front, as long as it's in the middle of the car. So now what we're going to do is get out hit normal in the Q menu, side of the base plate. This sets the plane direction, split the car in half right here, both directions. So this is going to be helpful for how we're going to move the wheels. Now, you can hit the sides of a map. However, I highly recommend you actually use your base plate. Maps can be misaligned and not entirely straight. So always use your base plate once it is locked in place. So now that we have the direction set, we will right-click the wheel, we will press R, and this will bring up the tool menu for precision alignment. You will go to Rotation Functions, click Plane 1, Mirror Across Plane, and you will Shift-click Rotate Entity. This will duplicate it and rotate the other one to this side. If you don't Shift-click and just click, it will simply just move the prop across the plane. So you want to Shift-click so it duplicates it. Now that we have this set up, you see that we already have the front wheel set up. And if you can kind of already gather where I'm going with this, we get hit normal again on the front or the back, whichever's closest, doesn't really matter. So now it splits it in half this way. Now we go into the menu again. We already have this wheel highlighted. If you don't, highlight it again with right click, R, shift click, and it duplicates the wheel over. Nice thing with PA is once you've already done a movement like this, all you have to do is shift right click again with the, highlight function plus shift, and it'll duplicate the last function you just did. This is only after you've done a move once you've set the plane. So it wouldn't work for, if we set the plane there and we didn't move this yet, it wouldn't work if we just shift clicked. It would do this old function that we already did. So you have to do that. If you don't, if that's confusing to you, you can always open the R menu, shift click once you have your plane set, and it's okay. So now we have our wheels set up. And before you want to do anything, any constraints with your wheels, make spherical them. You have to. If you don't do it now, when you do the make spherical later, it can offset the constraints, and in some cases, it will remove them. So when it comes to car weight and things, wheels are usually about 100. They start at 100. You can stay between 30 to 100. I recommend you go lighter than 100. So for today, we're going to go ahead and do 70. 70 on all 4 wheels. And our base plate, typically base plates, you can keep them around 100 to maybe 400. You don't have to go crazy heavy or light. It entirely depends on what you're building, but I recommend you stay within that area. You don't want to make the car too heavy. It's going to either handle bad or it's not going to accelerate as fast as you want. So I think for today, we're going to go ahead and do 300. It's a decent middle ground. So now, we're going to attach these wheels. This method is going to be a little different than other ways shown in older tutorials. I recommend this way in 2024. Keeps things quick and simple. You can still use older V-rope style, but today I'm going to show you rope sliders. So you used to have to do this with PA. Luckily, there's been a tool made for this now called rope slider. So we're going to open this up. I have my width. I'll set it here just to show you guys. You don't have to have your width set. I recommend 0 so you don't see the constraints. Typically, length, you could keep it at 1500. It gives you enough travel and stability. The longer the ropes, the more travel you get out of it and the stability, but you don't want to go too big, as some servers might have constraint limits, I should say, where if you spawn it near the edge of the map, it might delete the constraint. So I would recommend 1500. You never have to worry about it. And for rope count, you want 3. This will triangulate it, so you have stability on all sides. And then we're going to do center. The tool shows you that 0 is hit pause, 1 is center, 2 is mass center. We'll do center, so 1. Select third prop is ticked, and clear objects on holster. This is just nice so that if you put the tool away, you don't have to worry about the object still being selected. So with rope slider out, we have third prop selected, or third prop ticked. Base plate, it'll show in the top left, so click your base plate. The moving prop, which is your wheel. Now the third prop to determine slider angle, you click on the top of your base plate, or it can be anything that has a vertical surface. So this determines the direction, so it's going to be up and down. I recommend you click on your base plate since it's already level, but now you can see we have these extending ropes. If I duplicate this to show you real quick, the wheel can move up and down freely, exactly as we want for suspension. So I'm going to go ahead and recreate this with no width at all, because we don't want to see it. So base plate, moving prop, top for the direction, base plate, moving prop, top, base plate, moving prop, top, base plate, moving prop, top. So now, just to check it again, always dupe your card to check it. Wheels move. Perfect. So now we need to do the suspension. And today we're going to be doing elastics. It'll keep it quick and simple. There's a tool here that we can use, so we don't have to use precision alignment or anything to set it up. So, right here, elastic suspension tool. Elasticity, to keep it simple, is your stiffness of your spring. Damping is the damping, of course, just like a shock absorber. And relative damping is the speed at which the two ends are damped. If I'm going to be honest with you, don't worry about the setting ever. It really doesn't change that much. Just set it to 50 and leave it. And of course, don't have stretch only ticked, and then offsets are all made to 0. So elasticity today, I'm going to go ahead and leave it how I have it set up for this weight. 18,000. Typically, elasticity, your stiffness, goes from 0 to 50,000. And damping, you only want to go a couple thousand, anywhere between 0 to maybe, I don't know, maybe 3,000. It all very much heavily depends on the car. If your damping number is too high for how light your car is, it's going to make it spaz out, so you have to lower the damping number. So we're going to do 18,000 and 1,100 with 50 relative damping. Always just go ahead and leave relative damping at 50 all the time when you're making these. So we're going to click the wheel base plate, and it's done. It sets up the center point for the elastic. And we're going to do wheel base plate, wheel base plate, wheel base plate. And it's done. And if we dupe this, and it already has suspension. Now, of course, we have to get to the ball sockets, and this is why you build north and south. So, before we get crazy on that, I'm going to go to wire mod, expression 2, and this is a chip I'm providing you guys with. It's a basic gyro steering chip with counter steer and simple measures to help you control the car. So, go ahead and we'll take this chip once you have it pasted in, and we'll go ahead and spawn it down, drag it up. It'll do this. It's got a freeze function when you're not grabbing it. So don't worry about it. It's going to drop like that when you let go. So, before you do anything, we can go ahead and put our pod controller on top of the setting if you want. That's okay. Mine just set to a different model. And before you do any constraints on your setting, always wire it up. So base plate goes to your base, A to A, B to D, active to active. Now, we can do the constraints. So obviously you only want the steering wheels to be done, you know, wheel to the actual steering chip. And the wheels that aren't steering always go to your base plate. So to set this up, we use ball socket advanced. As I was explaining before, we need to build north and south. X right here is the, keep it simple, the direction a wheel rotates. Y is like the camber on a car, leans the wheels. That's that direction. And Z can be considered the direction a wheel turns. So if you're gathering what I'm getting at here, we need the wheels to rotate, but we want to lock the other axes so the wheel doesn't wobble, obviously, and it follows how we want. So X minimum is -180, X maximum is 180. This allows free rotation. And now Y minimum is -0.01, maximum is +0.01. Same for Z, minimum -0.01, maximum +0.01. This will lock those axes and allow the wheel to rotate. And we also want to make sure we have free movement ticked so that the entities can move independent of each other and you don't have to worry about it. You don't need no collide. And leave friction set to 0. And I would highly recommend you add this as a preset to advanced ball socket. It makes your life way easier. So we're going to do the front steering wheel to the chip. You don't have to be specific on where you click. And now if we want 2 constraints here, we do the chip to the wheel. If you do the same order, it will overwrite that constraint. So now that we've done reverse order, we have 2 constraints, which makes the constraint a lot stronger, as well as allows the wheels to spin a lot faster before they spaz out. I'll do the same thing for the other steering wheel. Wheel, setting, setting to wheel. Now for the non-steering wheels, always go to your base plate. So wheel, base plate, wheel. Wheel, base plate, wheel. And now we have 2 ball sockets per wheel, but we can actually still make it even stronger. A little trick here that I like to do, I have this saved as a preset. All you do is your Y minimum and maximum, you make minimum +0.01 and Y maximum negative. Only for Y and Z. Do not do it to X. X stays minimum -180, +180 for maximum. So once you invert your Y and Z minimum and maximum, so it's positive and then negative, same thing, free movement. We do wheel to setting for steering, setting to wheel. Wheel to setting, setting to wheel. And then of course for the non-steering wheels to the base plate again. Wheel, base plate, wheel. Wheel, base plate, wheel. Now we have strong ball sockets, 4 of them per wheel, that hold the wheels straight and follows the directions that we want. We unfreeze it, and now you notice the wheels are set how we want. They rotate, and on top of that, you notice we can spin it, and you can see the setting already starting to do its work. Roll the car around, it corrects, and it's a little choppy right now because it's not active. If we really want to now, we can go ahead and put a little thruster here on the back. Set whatever model you want. Maybe about 800 force. And we'll go ahead and wire this up to W. You can go into Weapons, Wire Mod, Remote Control, and you click your pod controller. Hit E. So now you can see we hit A and D. And we can push the car around with the thruster. So now, if you want to, what we can go ahead and do, obviously it's a little slow. We'll take a little chair here, grab whichever one you want. I'll just use the Jeep seat. Slap it on here for you guys. And we'll go ahead and we'll just weld it right on top. And then what we can go ahead and do is we'll take our thruster. I'm going to set the force up a little higher. We'll do 5,000 instead. Wire that. W. Now, what we do, got to make sure you do this once you have your chair set up, I forgot. Pod controller, right-click the pod controller, right-click your seat, it links it, so when you get in, you'll be able to control the vehicle. Area dupe, their advanced dupe, which is shift, right-click the ground, spawn it in, and unfreeze it, just like that. Hop in, A, D, steering works, so you can use the thruster, and just like that, congratulations. You have made a simple steering chassis with counter steer, very easy to drive, and it runs well. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed this Gmod tutorial. All the links are down in the description if you need anything. This includes the tools in the E2. And in the next video, I'm going to show you guys how to put ACF on this chassis.